The year is 1900. Europe stands at the height of its power. Across the continent, mighty empires control vast territories. Powerful industries reshape the world, and scientific discoveries are changing everyday life. To many people, it feels as if Europe has entered a new golden age, an age of progress, prosperity, and endless opportunity. London has become the heart of the world's largest empire. Ships arrive every day carrying goods from Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas. The British Empire stretches across so much of the globe that people proudly say, "The sun never sets on the British Empire." Europe is not a single nation. Instead, it is a continent divided among powerful kingdoms, empires, and republics. Each government has its own ambitions, its own fears, and its own vision for the future. On the surface, peace seems secure, but beneath that calm, dangerous rivalries are already taking shape. To the east, a young and ambitious Germany is rising faster than anyone expected. Since its unification in 1871, German factories, railways, and industries have expanded at an astonishing speed. In only a few decades, Germany has transformed itself into one of the strongest powers in Europe. France is determined to restore its influence after losing the Franco-Prussian War. Russia continues to expand across Eastern Europe and Asia. Austria-Hungary struggles to govern dozens of different ethnic groups, while the once powerful Ottoman Empire is steadily losing land and influence. To ordinary people, Europe appears peaceful and prosperous, but behind royal ceremonies, diplomatic meetings, and economic success, another story is unfolding. Nations are expanding their armies, building modern weapons, and competing for power across the world. Without realizing it, Europe is quietly moving toward a conflict that will change history forever. And this is only the beginning of the story. Europe's greatest strength was no longer only its armies. It was its factories. Coal, iron, and steel powered an industrial revolution that transformed economies. Nations capable of producing more steel could build more railways, more ships, and eventually more weapons than ever before. European powers were not competing only within Europe. Across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, they fought for colonies, natural resources, and trade routes. Possessing overseas territories became a symbol of national pride and global power. Raw materials such as rubber, cotton, coal, and precious metals fueled Europe's industries. Control over these resources strengthened economies, but it also increased competition between rival empires. At the same time, European governments poured enormous sums of money into expanding their navies. Battleships became symbols of national prestige. The stronger the fleet, the greater the country's influence across the world's oceans. Military service became a source of pride. Across Europe, young men trained for war. Governments increased defense spending, and armies grew larger every year. Although peace still existed, preparations for a future conflict had already begun. By the end of the 19th century, Europe had become richer, stronger, and more technologically advanced than ever before. Yet every new factory, every new battleship, and every new military alliance also increased the risk of a conflict that no one could fully control. The continent was becoming a powder keg, waiting for a single spark. Not every empire was united from within. Austria-Hungary was home to Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Croats, Serbs, Romanians, Ukrainians, Poles, Italians, and many other ethnic communities. Each had its own language, traditions, and hopes for the future. For years, these different peoples had lived under the same emperor. But as education spread and newspapers became more common, many groups began asking the same question: why should we be ruled by someone else instead of governing ourselves? This powerful idea was called nationalism. It encouraged people to identify first with their nation, language, and culture. For some countries, nationalism created unity. For large empires, however, it threatened to tear them apart. Nowhere was this tension greater than in the Balkans. Located between powerful empires, this region had become one of the most unstable parts of Europe. Historians would later call it the powder keg of Europe. At the same time, the Ottoman Empire was steadily weakening. As its control over the Balkans declined, newly independent states competed for land and influence. Every territorial change increased distrust between neighboring countries. By the dawn of the 20th century, Europe had become the most powerful continent on Earth. Yet beneath its wealth and progress lay deep political rivalries, competing empires, growing nationalism, and an expanding arms race. The world had not entered an age of lasting peace. It had entered the final years before one of history's greatest catastrophes. To the ordinary citizen, Europe seemed stronger than at any other point in history. Cities expanded, industries flourished, and new inventions promised a better future. Few people imagined that within only a few years, these same streets would send millions of young men to the battlefield. The same technology that improved daily life was also making war more destructive. Railways could transport entire armies in days. Modern factories could produce thousands of rifles, artillery shells, and machine guns faster than ever before. No European leader expected a global war that would last more than 4 years. Most believed that if conflict ever came, it would be short and quickly decided. History would prove them terribly wrong. Behind palace walls and government offices, decisions were being made that would shape the future of millions. Rivalries between great powers continued to grow, and trust between nations slowly disappeared. Europe was becoming a continent where even a small crisis could trigger an uncontrollable chain of events. That crisis would not begin in London, Paris, or Berlin. It would begin in the Balkans, a region where competing empires, rising nationalism, and political instability had created one of the most dangerous places on Earth. In just a few years, one assassination there would ignite a war that changed the course of human history. In the next episode, we travel to the heart of Europe to understand how industrial growth, military ambition, and powerful alliances transformed political rivalry into a path toward war.